Yo, what is going on? I'm pumped. Welcome to episode 16 of Trail Tales. My name is Kyle O'Grady, and this is the podcast where I chat with thru-hikers, peak baggers, ultra runners, and every other type of hiker, that's right, every single type, about their experiences and stories from the trail. Now, this week's guest is Aaron Ibey, who hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2016 and has a bunch of other cool hikes to talk about as well. He's a professional photographer, and he talks all about how people can step up their photo game a little bit by giving some camera recommendations, and of course sharing some tips about taking better pictures just using a smartphone that you and I both have in our pockets right now. We also talk about his experience working as a ridgerunner for the Appalachian Mountain Club this past summer. And make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode because he shares a crazy, crazy story about an encounter he had with a mountain lion, that's right, a mountain lion, while hiking through the 100-mile wilderness in Maine. It's a great chat all around, and Aaron, when you hear this, thank you so much for hitting me up and volunteering to come on the show. I really appreciate it. We're going to get into the episode in just a second here, but first, I got to say a couple things like usual. First thing I want to say is, honestly, I kind of dropped the ball on the audio quality a little bit on this episode. Now, you're going to hear that Aaron and I kind of had some trouble getting connected throughout the episode. We drop a couple times, and that was a problem that persisted well before we actually started recording, and after we finished recording as well. Literally about 3 seconds after I hit stop on the recording, the call dropped again, and because of that, I didn't really take the time to kind of set up the quality the way I like it normally. Aaron had a little bit of background noise on his end, and I usually try to kind of take care of that stuff before we start recording, but because of the circumstances, I kind of wanted to just get the episode going, so that's my fault. Hopefully it won't happen again in the future. I don't think it will, so sorry about that. The second thing I want to say is I didn't get any iTunes reviews last week, and you guys know I love reading those iTunes reviews, so let's step up the review game a little bit. I want to see a couple more, please, by the beginning of the next episode. That would be awesome. 5 stars. I will read it. Everyone will love you. It'll be great. The next thing I want to say is social media. Trail Tales Pod on Instagram. That's the handle. Also the handle on Twitter. I'm trying to start tweeting again. I got to get back into the Twitter game. Not that I was really ever in it to begin with, but yeah, go follow me on both those platforms. And email. Everybody knows I love email. I haven't gotten any emails in a little while, so please send me an email if you like the show, or if you don't like the show. Maybe you want to talk some shit. I haven't gotten any shit talk anywhere. I'm kind of disappointed. I want to get just wrecked on the internet. I mean, that's what the internet's all about, so please send me an email, good or bad. I will really appreciate it. trailtalespod@gmail.com is where you can go do that. I also want to say that I've officially launched the Trail Tales Patreon. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Patreon, it's basically a platform that allows you, the listener, to support the show by pledging a small amount of money per month. I'm talking like $10 or less, and in return, receive some sort of bonus content. I'm going to do one Patreon exclusive episode per month where I'll just be talking about various backpacking topics, and I'll also be posting some bloopers on there as well. I'm really excited about it. It's a great way to kind of interact with people who are really interested in the show. It's almost like you're an investor, so I'll really be taking your advice into consideration, which I do regardless. But yeah, I'm just really excited about it, so go check it out. It's patreon.com/trailtales. And if you're not interested, then I totally get it. Not everybody's trying to just throw around money on the internet. Don't worry, the show will always be free, and I still appreciate you listening nonetheless. So the last thing I want to say here is a thank you to my friend Taylor Norton, who was on episode 2, I believe. He kind of helped me out with the audio on Aaron's end a little bit, kind of edited it a little bit better than I could have, and did that for free out of the kindness of his own heart. So I appreciate that. Taylor, couldn't have done it without you. You're the best. I think I love you. All right, let's get into it. Episode number 16 of Trail Tales with Aaron Ibey, Appalachian Trail class of 2016. Episode number 16. I'm here with Aaron Ibey, trail name Wankles, which is hilarious. We had a little bit of trouble getting connected, so I'm hoping this is working. You can still hear me, right, Aaron?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, this is a lot further than we got last time, so...
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to run with it. So, like I said, episode number 16, I'm really excited to talk to Aaron today. He is a professional photographer. He is a thru-hiker. He's done the AT and a bunch of other stuff. We're going to talk all about it. But first, to start off, Aaron, I want to start the way that I like to start every single episode. I just said start like 5 times there in that sentence. I want to know, how did you learn about long-distance backpacking? And I understand that the AT was the first thru-hike you did. What made you decide that you wanted to do the AT in 2016?
So I was raised camping and hiking pretty much my entire life. Since I was born, I was out in the woods camping with my family, and during school, every spring break we'd go to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I live in Indiana. It's the closest to the mountains I can get, which is about 7 hours away.
Nice.
But we'd go there every spring break and hike and camp, and that's how I got into backpacking. And since then, I learned from the AT that there was a long-distance trail through the Smokies, and I learned about the Appalachian Trail. And I was probably in sophomore year of high school when I met my first thru-hiker at Klingman's Dome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's a bunch of smelly, dirty... They looked homeless, not gonna lie. And
they probably felt homeless.
Yeah,
too.
Definitely. And they asked my parents for a cigarette, actually, and we started talking to them, and they started telling us what they were doing, and I was absolutely fascinated by this, and that they were hiking from all the way from Georgia to Maine. And since that moment, it had always been like in my mind, like that's something I gotta do. That sounds incredible. That sounds like the journey of a lifetime. And as I started talking to my family about it, I found out that it was my dad's dream to do it at one point.
Oh, and, no kidding.
Yeah. He had been fascinated in backpacking in the backcountry and, carrying everything on your back. And he just never got the chance to do it. And so senior year rolled around. Everybody was...
senior year of high school?
Of high school, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And everybody was planning on, what colleges they were going to go to. And I was kind of in a limbo. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to go to college. And the only thing I wanted to go to college for was photography and go to art school. And that just didn't settle with me well. The whole going to school to learn how to do art just never really, it sounded good on paper, but when I really thought about it, I was like, instead of spending all this money and getting myself in a huge amount of debt, why don't I actually live and breathe my photo, like taking photos for 6.5 months of what I love to take photos of, and that's, landscapes and portraiture and just learning, just getting completely out of my comfort zone.
Right.
So that's what I decided to do. Senior year spring break, I took my first ever backpacking trip, and it was about a 30-mile loop in the Smokies, and it went completely wrong. Everything that could have gone bad went bad.
Honestly, I feel like pretty much everybody's first backpacking trip always goes horribly wrong. Back when I was this was probably 3 years ago, with my girlfriend at the time, I took her on just an overnight in the White Mountains, and just rain, thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms the entire time, unpredicted right on top of us. And I was like, of course, it's her first time backpacking. Of course it's going to happen. So I know where you're coming from there.
Yeah, it's like a gate of passage. You have your first backpacking trip is always the worst.
And it's kind of amazing that people come back to it after that too. Honestly, my first backpacking trip was also a complete disaster. So that's funny.
So I was working on my senior year project for photography. I was the assistant photographer for the art class, and I was also the head photographer for the yearbook. And I wanted to do a photo story basically on backpacking. So I took a camera and brought one of my friends from high school with me, and he had no idea what he was about to get into. Neither really did I. I thought I knew what I was doing, and honestly, I had no idea. So I did that 30-mile loop, and ever since then, I've been absolutely hooked on backpacking, through hiking, just the whole culture and in general. It fascinates me. So basically, from there, I that's just what I found my passion in was photographing, the through hike culture and people interacting with these trails and how they and telling people stories and my story and just telling people within the world how great.
Uh-oh. I lost you, Aaron. Ah, damn it.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. We were going so good.
Yeah, it was going super well, and then all of a sudden it just dropped out.
Well, I guess we might as well keep going.
Yeah, I mean, can you use that stuff that we just did?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I just am kind of curious. You said that after that first 30-mile trip, you kind of got hooked on it, but you also said that everything went wrong. So what exactly went wrong on that trip there?
So this was springtime in the Smoky Mountains, and rain is pretty much every day there. I did not bring a single piece of rain gear. I lost
I guess that'll do it.
Oh, no, I didn't. Nope, I thought I lost you again for there. Yeah, so I didn't bring any rain gear at all. And I was wearing a cotton flannel, cotton t-shirt, and Dickies work pants. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Just the classic, beginner, oh, that's so great.
Yeah. Plus, no toilet paper, which was awful.
Was that deliberate, or did you just forget to bring it?
I forgot to bring it. And it was sitting right on my driver's seat when I left the trailhead.
Well, at least you meant to bring it. I've heard of people before thinking that they won't need it for some crazy reason, I'm just gonna use leaves, which I guess you could do. I'm sure it's been done. I'm sure some crazy ultralighters you don't need fucking toilet paper, but I mean, come on, you kind of need toilet paper.
Yeah, it's definitely a necessity in my opinion. Brought no toilet paper. Had a 5-pound tent that I never used once. Had I had an 85-liter North Face pack from 1983 that my neighbor let me borrow. It was awful. And when it rained on us, just everything got extremely heavy.
Yeah.
Luckily I kept my sleeping bag dry. That was the one thing I made sure that I made sure I kept that dry. That was the only thing that went right, was sleeping bag stayed dry the whole time.
I mean, I guess some other things might have gone, or must have gone right too then, if you were hooked, and obviously you decided to go back and do the full through hike.
Luckily we had one day that was super nice and absolutely beautiful, which really helped, but the next 3 days were just complete shit.
So when did you actually set off for your through hike then, after that first trip there?
So I started off March 5th on Springer. I left the Amicalola State Park the 4th, but I left super late in the day and didn't quite make it to Springer. I did the approach trail, so I stayed at that shelter just before the summit of Springer. And started March 5th and ended September 21st of 2016.
Good shit, man. Good shit.
Yeah.
So I know you've done a lot of other through hikes. I'm not sure if you've done anything as long as the AT, but just kind of talking to you beforehand, you had mentioned that you'd done some other through hikes, one of which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But what are some of the other trails and through hikes you've done?
So 2017, I attempted the long trail southbound. I made it about 80 miles and ended up having to get off of that. And I've done the Foothills Trail. I did that in February of 2018. And between that, I've done a bunch of shorter loops through the Sierra and throughout Colorado as well.
So, do you mind if I ask you what happened on that long trail hike? I'm just kind of curious because I'm from Vermont, and that's kind of the long trail is like where I kind of learned to backpack. Honestly, it's like kind of what got me hooked like that. So I'm just kind of.
Yeah, my entire family lineage is from Vermont. I visit there quite often, and I absolutely love Vermont on my through hike when I did the AT. It was my favorite state personally.
That's what I like to hear right there. Hell
yeah. Everybody hated Vermont. I loved it, man. It was definitely the best state on the whole trail in my opinion.
Good stuff.
but we set off, me, my good buddy Puma, and Scooter. We set off southbound to do this in peak foliage season.
Yep.
It was going to be great, and we planned on doing the long trail in 2 weeks, which is quite fast.
Yeah, that's pretty aggressive for the long trail for sure.
And Puma had just done well over half of the CDT, and Scooter had done the Colorado Trail, the Oregon Coast Trail that year, and so they were in peak hiking shape.
Right.
And I hadn't really hiked anything since the AT, since I got off of it, and I was still in pretty good shape, but
I mean, especially that northern part of the long trail too is like it's ridiculous. God. Yeah, that's some tough stuff for sure.
Brutal.
I can just imagine like trying to get out there and like keep up with two like peak shape through hikers going over that shit. Like, yeah, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, and I had just like switched all my gear over to way lighter gear and quite wasn't dialed in right, so it was it wasn't the greatest experience. It was a great experience, but I also had family complications going on back at home. So that kind of rendered my whole mindset on the trail. And we also got stuck in that hurricane that hit in 2017 on the coast of on the East Coast. So we got stuck in. Luckily, I had family that came and picked us up that got us out of the storm, but we were held up for 3.5 days there.
Where were you held up in? What town?
It was just before. It was at Smuggler's Notch.
So Stowe, probably, or Morrisville.
We got picked up in Stowe and went to Barry, Vermont, which is
Barry. Yeah. That's like more towards the center of the state. That's pretty. Well, for Vermont standards, that's pretty far from Stowe.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we didn't really have any place else to go. All the hotels were booked. Everything was.
Too bad you didn't know me. I could have scooped you and brought you into Burlington, but that's not gonna. Man. If only.
Yeah, maybe for future reference. I'm definitely getting back on the long trail in the future.
Oh, dude, for sure. I'm dying to do some trail magic now that I'm like back here. So, if that offer goes for anybody else listening to this, internet strangers, if you are on the long trail and you need some trail magic in the Chittenden County, Mansfield area, definitely let me know. So, moving on from my favorite hiking trail, we're going to talk a little bit about the Foothills Trail. Now, some of you legit, like, hardcore listeners might have heard me say on other episodes that I'm planning on hiking this Foothills Trail this upcoming April, that is April of 2019. When I had found out that Aaron had hiked the Foothills Trail, I was naturally pretty curious about it because it's not like a super, super well-known trail. I mean, there's resources online about it, but it's not like the AT where every single question in the world has been answered somewhere online. So I honestly have a lot of questions for him about this trail. Most of it's pretty general, honestly, but I kind of want to learn and might as well get it on recording. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Foothills Trail. So first, Aaron, why don't you just go ahead and kind of just give me like the general information about your hike? When did you do it? How long did it take? Just all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I did the Foothills Trail February of 2018. Luckily, we had a pocket of really, really nice weather for a solid week. So me and my buddy Two Souls, who I thru-hiked the AT with, met there, and we just set off, and we planned on doing it in 3 days. It's a 75-mile trail, and it was a great time. It was a really fun trail. It wasn't extremely difficult. like elevation wise.
That's what I like to hear. That's good.
It was super beautiful. You're just hiking along, wild rivers and huge rhododendron forests, and there's like literally the best campsites I've ever seen.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, dude, you're getting me stoked.
It's really a fun trail. It's perfect for anybody that's want to get their feet wet and through hiking, and it's a good starter trail, but it's also a fun trail if you just want to get out and make some miles and see some really cool stuff.
So I should probably mention, I forgot to say, the Foothills Trail is in South Carolina primarily. It's, if you picture the state of South Carolina, I kind of like to picture it as like an upside down triangle. The Foothills Trail is kind of towards the upper left-hand corner of that triangle, and it even dips into North Carolina a couple times, just for like a couple miles, I believe. Like it pretty much is real close to the border there. And like Aaron said, it's about 75, 76 miles-ish. So we were planning on doing it in 5 days, honestly, maybe like 4.5 days.
That would be perfect. We didn't have that great of a time frame. My buddy could only get so many days off, and so we were both in decent shape, and making 20 plus miles a day on that trail is fairly easy.
Okay, cool. Oh, dude, that's great. That's actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. One of the first ones was just like, how is the terrain, mostly elevation, I guess, compared to like the southern part of the AT, say like, I don't know, like south of the Smokies, maybe that first like section through Georgia and up through North Carolina a little bit.
It's easier than Georgia. It's super nice. The elevation wise, it's very steady, low gain climbs, and you're not really climbing that whole much. There's some steep sections, but it's nothing like the AT at all.
Okay, cool.
It's really well maintained and marked, and there's a few road crossings where it gets a little sketchy, where you don't really know where to go, but if you just look around a little bit, you'll find the trail again. Yeah.
Right. Too bad there's not a gut hooks for it.
Exactly.
Come on, gut hooks, get on that. No, I'm sure they've got plenty of work to do. I'm sure they probably will make one eventually.
Definitely. I was actually just talking to them about it. They're planning on doing it. I don't know exactly when it's supposed to come out, but it's supposedly in the works, or about to be in the works.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like they probably are working on it, or at least planning on it already. Because I mean, they're on their shit. Like I never really realized how many trails Gut Hooks has until I was kind of like poking around online, like after I got back from my thru hike. Like I knew they had the PCT, the AT, and the long trail, but I didn't realize they have like all these smaller trails too. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
That's like my dream job, Gut Hooks. I'm a software developer. I have a computer science degree. Please hire me. I would love to work for you.
I actually thru hiked with one of the girls that works for Gut Hooks right now.
Oh yeah, what's her name? Is it Natalie?
No. Oh my gosh, I cannot remember her name, and I'm so sorry if she's listening right now. But I met her in Georgia, and then after Georgia, I didn't see her again. But she was in our little trail family for just a minute.
Oh, cool.
It was real cool. But yeah. Gut Hooks, get on the Foothills Trail.
Sounds like they are. No, they're awesome. I interact with them quite a bit on Instagram. Like they always like repost my pictures, and they even invited me to do this like little write up called My Trail Story just for their blog. And Natalie, I don't even remember her last name honestly, but she was the one that got in contact with me. So that's why I asked about her. But yeah, Gut Hooks rules. Anyways, back to the Foothills Trail. So I'm just kind of going through like my notes here. Like I just have all these like very general questions. So one of the other things I wanted to know is, I'm pretty sure there's only like one or two of these, but just want to make sure I'm not missing out on anything. What guidebook and map did you guys use?
So we used the guidebook that you can find on like Amazon.
Is it like the orange one?
Yeah. And that works pretty well. You really don't need to look at it that often. But I like to look at it for mileage, just to make sure where the campsites were and everything like that. It's super, super detailed, and it helps you a lot. it shows you a bunch of different, if you're going westbound or eastbound, or it just shows you everything you need to know.
Right.
So we use that to just plan out our days, where we were going to camp, and I looked at it maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the whole trip.
Okay.
Just to make sure we were at the right spot for camp and everything like that.
Did you take that I think it's anti-gravity gear little pocket profile map? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I do not.
Maybe that's
I don't know.
Maybe that's newer or something else. Yeah. So those were really the only 2 resources I was able to find. Not that I looked like super, super hard, but it was that guidebook you had just mentioned and then this little map. So I was just kind of curious about that, curious how you like that stuff.
The book works super well for me. It's small enough so you can just put in your side pocket. It's not some big bulky book. It does have a lot of excess pages that you can cut out, but it works perfectly for me.
Cool. So you mentioned you had hiked in February. Now, I know Vermont and New England conditions pretty well, but I'm still not super familiar with trail conditions the further south you go. So like I said, we're planning on hiking at the end of April into the beginning of May, and I reached out to the Foothills Conference. I think it's Foothills Trail Conference. And I just asked them about the temperatures, and they said that in that time of year it's going to be pretty rainy and highs. Actually, they didn't say highs. They said lows in the 40s and 50s at night, which is fine for me. But February obviously is a little different. Can you just talk about I know you said you had a good weather window, but what conditions did you guys see during February?
So we had beautiful bluebird skies during the days. It was probably in the mid 50s. It maybe got up to 60 one day, but at night it got pretty cold at night at one point. The lowest I got was I think high 20s, just because we were way down by a river and we were down in a valley, but I mean I had the proper gear, so I mean it sucked getting up in the morning because since it was February, we had to and we were doing 20 plus mile days, which were taking all day. We had to start super early, so we woke up when it was absolutely the coldest, 4 or 5 a.m. and so breaking down camp in the morning was a pain. But once you started moving and getting going, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, we had surprisingly great weather. I couldn't ask for better weather out there. I would like to go back in the summer because there's so many good swimming spots and so many good swimming holes. I don't know exactly how it'll be in April or May, but if it's warm enough, man, definitely take a dip in those in those rivers.
I love to swim when I'm hiking, so I definitely will be. Hopefully we'll get some nice weather. I already booked the time off of work and booked the flight and everything, so I'm going regardless. Sweet. But hoping for the best on that, obviously. Okay, so all right, very, very general question, but I kind of want to know what were some of just your favorite parts of the trail? What are some of the things I should kind of circle in the guidebook and kind of make a note of to look out for?
So there's a section on the trail, I don't know exactly what mileage it is, but you literally walk on the banks of this wild river, and you'll see it on the trail. It basically looks like it's going in the river, but
oh wow,
and you follow this river for probably 5 or 8 miles, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Sassafras Mountain, which is the highest peak in South Carolina, there's a camp spot about a mile south of or I don't know exactly the terminology because it goes east to west.
Right.
It's a mile from the summit, and it's a huge campsite, and it's got awesome campsites there. But yeah, Table Rock State Park is super awesome. If you get a chance to go up on top of Table Rock, I highly recommend it. It's technically not part of the trail. I kind of wish it was, but there's a side trail that goes up to it right before you get to the end of the trail in Table Rock State Park, which is absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, the whole trail, you're there's not a whole lot of vistas, because, you're at such low elevation. You're kind of in that green tunnel the whole time, but it's still absolutely gorgeous.
Right. And I don't mind the green tunnel at all, honestly. Like that's like, I've never really hiked out west, so that's like just what I'm used to. So that's all good with me. So that's actually another question I was going to ask you is, it kind of just looked like from my research that there really wasn't that many like expansive like mountain views per se. It was more, like the rivers and just like the low elevation, like pretty scenes, I guess. But it does look like on Sassafras there's like kind of like an open-ish mountain view. Like, are there are there any like other notable like views like that on the trailer? Like, how many are there? Like, can you just talk about that a little bit?
Like I said, Table Rock is really a really open view. It's like a huge granite rock face that you can get on top of and look at. Just the mountains around.
Yeah.
But I mean, besides Sassafras, that's the only really exposed open mountain.
Wow.
On it, and right now they're doing construction with the lookout tower up there. I think they said it was supposed to be done this year. It may be done before your hike, but when I did it, it was like a huge construction zone up there.
Oh, really?
So when we got up there, it was really not a whole lot to look at except for a bunch of it was all fenced off, and we were like, damn. But you could still get a little bit of a view there, which is really nice. But it's just green tunnel the whole time, and there's a lot of waterfalls and a lot of
the waterfalls. That's kind of like what the guidebook was talking about quite a bit. That's kind of like the primary like scenery, I guess. I don't know. I should probably ask you, what direction did you hike it? So the Foothills Trail goes east to west. It doesn't go north to south like most trail, like the AT at least. What direction did you hike it?
So we went westbound. We went from Oconee State Park to Table Rock State Park.
Okay, cool. That's the direction I think we're gonna plan on doing it as well. Cool. Let's see, what else do I have here? So you already talked about this a little bit. You mentioned that campsite on top of, or not on top, near Sassafras. But one of the questions I had here is, are there any other like awesome campsites that kind of stick out in your head that we should like try to shoot to stay at?
So that section I was talking about, that you're right along the river, there's literally dozens of campsites all throughout there.
Is that like pretty soon after you leave Oconee?
Yeah.
So like we'd probably hit it on our first day, yeah. I think. Okay, I was looking at the map yesterday, so I think I know what section you're talking about.
Yeah, I want to say it's like just as you exit Oconee, because once you're in Oconee, it's like really wide trails. There's a lot of people out there hiking.
Right.
But once you leave the state park, it kind of gets back into the same grade as like the AT, where it's real narrow and and not so heavily used. But yeah, that's the section that has super nice camping. I would highly recommend. I don't know what your mileage is for the trail, but definitely at least take a really extensive break there and have lunch there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. Dude, you're pumping me up right now. I really hope the weather's good. Oh shit.
Yeah. It's a really nice trail that not a whole lot of people like, and honestly, those are the trails that I'm becoming more fascinated with.
So that's actually another question I was going to ask you. So I know you hiked in February, which probably isn't the most popular time of year to hike it, but like how many other like thru hikers did you guys see?
We saw zero.
Zero.
We saw the only people we saw was this dude fishing in the river, and he had a huge wild rainbow trout. I have a photo of it, and
nice.
It's massive. And that was the only person we saw. Yeah, we didn't see anybody else.
Wow.
Which was really cool.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit different for me. I mean, I'm sure it won't be anything compared to like the AT, but I mean, you guys also did it pretty fast, so you were just out there for less time, obviously. Less of a chance to see people, and like I said, February, probably not the most popular time to hike the trail.
So definitely not.
So I'm guessing maybe at the end of April we'll see some more people, but still I'm sure it won't be on like the AT's level at all. Let's see, what else do I have here? Okay, so I gotta ask the millennial question. My older listeners might be rolling their eyes at this one, but how was cell service along the trail? Do you remember?
So I have Sprint. I have the
so probably shit then.
Yeah, the absolute worst service you can have for trail provider. Like I never have service anywhere. So I didn't have great service. My buddy had AT&T. He had great service.
Oh, okay. That's all I needed to hear right there. I got AT&T, so we're
you're really not like super deep in the backcountry. I mean, you're far away from towns, but you're not as far away as you really think. But
okay.
Yeah, you should have pretty good cell service.
Okay, not that I'm like gonna be on my phone the whole time. I was just kind of curious because I like to check in with my mom and stuff. Hi mom, when you hear this, I know you're gonna hear this, and then say something to me next time we talk on the phone. Okay, bears. So, all right. So I'm not saying that I'm not gonna hang a bear bag because I always hang a bear bag. But let's say if I'm camping with somebody else who might not want to hang a bear bag one night, like, is that something that you think would be ill-advised, or do you not know, or like, have you heard any stories about bears on the Foothills Trail?
I would say definitely hang a bear bag on the Foothills Trail because you're in really low elevation. So bears are, and you're going to be there just as spring is, getting there. So the bears are going to be out. The bears are going to be roaming around for food. I would definitely do it because you're such low elevation and you're in such dense woods that they are definitely out there.
Okay.
I mean, that's, you just got to make good judgment on the camp spots you're at, especially when you're around rivers. Bears are notorious for going around there. So I would definitely hang a food bag.
Yeah, it's always like weird with me because honestly, when I like first started like learning about backpacking on the long trail here, there's really not a bear problem here at all. So I never hung a bear bag. Honestly, the first time I ever hung a bear bag was my first night on the AT, and obviously I knew better than to not hang it then, and I hung for pretty much the entire AT. But I don't know. I just wanted to ask just to see.
And honestly, the only time a bear's ever gotten my food is when I did hang it, and that was on the AT, and I quit hanging my food bag on the AT. But definitely on the Foothills Trail, I would definitely hike it. I would definitely hang it.
I will be hanging my bear bag then. Yeah. Everybody listening to this, hang your damn bear bags. Don't let people tell you not to, especially on the AT, especially on the southern portion of the AT.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard that already by now and you're planning on through hiking, then I don't know what the hell you're doing, but yeah, hang your damn bear bags, people. I don't want to be a bad influence.
Half the shelters on the AT have places where you can like hang your bear bag super easily. So it's like, it's really not an excuse, but like once you get up to like, upper Virginia, it gets a little, those mechanisms kind of go away, but you got to just do it manually. But I highly recommend it.
Make a game out of it. It can be fun.
Exactly.
Like my friend Flossie, who I'm going to be hiking with, who is episode number 3's guest, by the way. He loves the bear bag, dude. Like he lives for the bear bag. He's probably gonna give me shit when he hears this, but I know for a fact he will be hanging his bear bag, and I think I will as well. All right, let's see. What else do I have here about the Foothills Trail? I think I pretty much hit every question. Yeah, cool. Yeah. That was good, man. I think I just learned a lot there. I appreciate you answering some of those questions.
I'm glad I can pass some knowledge down.
Hell yeah, dude! You're getting me stoked for it too. If you haven't gotten that memo already, like this sounds awesome. I'm just really hoping the weather's good, but I'm gonna send it either way. So
definitely.
Let's kind of move on. First of all, I'm kind of surprised we haven't gotten dropped yet again. Like this is
for real. I'm like
honestly, I shouldn't have said that. I'm gonna knock on wood.
Yeah, for real. I'm walking up and doing it myself, man.
Word. So I kind of want to move on and talk a little bit about this ridgerunner thing. So Aaron was a ridgerunner with the AMC this past summer in 2018 on the Appalachian Trail, and we were kind of talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but whenever I come across ridgerunners when I'm hiking, I honestly kind of like pester them with a bunch of questions about their job, because I don't think I would ever want to be a ridgerunner, but it is like a very like unique job, and especially for someone who's into hiking and backpacking, obviously. So I'm always curious to hear about it, and I'm sure a lot of other people will be too. So can you kind of start off just by talking a little bit about like what section of the AT you were on?
Yeah, so I was a ridgerunner from the New York, Connecticut state line all the way up to Great Barrington, Massachusetts.
Oh, nice. So that's a pretty decent section of trail there.
Yeah, it was about 85 miles, or 70 to 80 miles. I don't quite remember the exact mileage, but yeah, it was all of Connecticut and about 15 miles into Massachusetts.
And what time frame were you out there? Because I wonder if we like passed each other. I don't remember seeing any ridge runners in that section, but
So I was there. I was there pretty early. I was there from May until the end of July.
Okay, so yeah, you were gone by the time I went through then.
Yeah.
That's cool though. What were your responsibilities exactly? So, I mean, I kind of know, like, obviously you want to make sure people aren't like being dicks and not following leave no trace and stuff like that. Yeah. I know you might have to deal with some shits, like actual shit. Like, what are the responsibilities for the ridge runner position?
So throughout Connecticut, Connecticut's probably one of the most strict states, through hiking wise. Like when you're on the AT, you cannot stealth camp, you cannot make fires, and they really, really want you to use privies as much as possible. So my job, one, was to collect data from how many thru-hikers I saw, northbound and southbound, how many day hikers I saw, how many section hikers I saw, and also breaking down any stealth spots that I did come across. Because I mean, thru hikers, I'll say it, I stealth camp all the time. I prefer that to staying around shelters. So I had to cover up stealth spots, break down fire rings, and teach people about leave no trace, and pick up trash, and also I also was a wilderness first aid certified. So if anybody had any issues, I was there with all the knowledge, and I was prepared to have worst case scenario happen. I carried a massive med kit with me and everything like that. So I was basically out there to just make sure people weren't burning down the woods, because in Connecticut the section of trail runs through a very, very tight corridor through Connecticut, which means it bumps right up with private property.
Yeah.
Within feet off the trail, you can be in somebody's backyard, and that's why fires are very, very not allowed. Because back in the 70s, there was an issue where, I don't know if it was necessarily thru hikers, but it was a backpacker that started a fire, and it burned a huge amount of land in Connecticut. And so that's when the private landowners really, really wanted the ATC and the AMC to really do something about this. And that's why there's ridge runners in this section, because your feet within somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
So that's why there's designated camp spots, shelters, and things of that nature.
Can you talk a little bit about like what your day to day looked like? So that's one thing I don't really know too much about. Like, were you like hiking like most of the day?
Yeah.
Would you ever just like post up at one spot for like a couple days? Like, how did your movements work, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there.
So my work week was 5 days on, 2 days off. My days start out between anywhere from down to a mile a day to up to 10 miles a day. And I would wake up and I would stay at a shelter or camp spot each night. I had my whole week planned out of where I was going to stay.
Did they like tell you where they wanted you to stay, or did they kind of leave that up to you?
So there was 3 ridge runners. There was me, another girl, and our ridge runner coordinator, who was a ridge runner in past years, but he had kind of bumped up. So he really wasn't out in the field as much. He was kind of our supervisor, and made sure that he made the schedule, made sure which direction we were going and what shelters and campsites we were going to stay at, and any other miscellaneous work we had to do. So we'd get dropped off at the trailhead, hike in, maybe 5 miles that day, camp that night, go around the campsite, clean up any trash, break down any fire rings, make sure the privy's clean.
Yep.
and basically introduce yourself to everybody you saw on trail.
You probably met a lot of people this summer then, huh?
So many people. So those 5 miles a day weren't that fast. Between talking to people, clearing trees and brush, breaking down fire rings, cleaning privies and shelters, what have it. It was basically working 5 days straight, 24 hours a day. But I was only getting paid, an 8-hour day, which wasn't the greatest. But I mean, I was getting paid to hike, so I mean, I really couldn't complain. I really couldn't complain that much.
So I know there's going to be some hiking nerd listening to this that's even more of a hiking nerd than I am and would love to get paid to hike, like you just said. So I kind of want to know, how did you get this job? Like, what did the application process look like with the AMC?
So with the AMC, I was just browsing the internet one day, honestly, and I went on the Appalachian Mountain Club website just to see if there's any, jobs or anything like that. Because I was desperate to get back on trail.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be back on the AT so badly. And I applied for this job, and within a week, I got an email saying they wanted to do a video interview with me, and did the video interview, and
nailed it clearly.
within the day or so, I got an email saying I was hired on, and I live in Indiana. I was stationed out in Connecticut, so I had to pick up and move, and went out to Connecticut and New England for 3.5 months. And once I got out to New England, we went up to the Whites, where every single AMC employee met at a Camp Dodge, which is a AMC facility in the Whites.
Yep.
And we stayed there for a week and did extensive training from wilderness first aid, CPR, just learning the HR stuff with AMC, which there's a shitload. Basically learning about the AMC and the history and everything about that, which was super interesting, because I know a lot of people have a bad rap about the AMC and
the Appalachian Money Club.
Yeah, and they definitely make a good amount of money, but honestly,
they do a ton of work for the trail, and obviously the Whites is like more than just the AT as well. I mean, there's thousands of miles of trails there, so someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah, and honestly, it's basically the huts that gets the bad rap, because I mean, there's just honestly a bunch of college kids working up there, and I mean,
dude, I tried. I almost worked at the huts. I got an interview, which is further than most people get apparently in the application process, but apparently that wasn't enough for him. So, which is fine, because after staying at one of the huts, I don't know if I would have wanted to work there anyways, but I don't know. They're good people. AMC is good.
The hut crews were wild. It was that's a whole nother. I don't really. I met all of them, and they were a wild bunch of basically college kids.
So I guess the last question I want to ask you about the ridgerunner thing is this is like the question I like to ask all the ridgerunners that I meet on the trail. What was the stupidest or like most ridiculous thing you saw another hiker doing that you kind of had to like call them out for?
So I met this gentleman, and he was one of those hikers that you just look at and you're like, is he through hiking? I'm not 100% sure. And I sat down and I talked to him for a good while, like a couple hours, and he was telling me how he's through hiking. He had this massive external frame pack, wooden staffs, no tent, no anything really. And he was telling me how he was about to break down his pack and make it basically one of those, like when you see in the old cartoons with the sack around the stick that you hold over your shoulder. He was telling me how he was going to do this, and how he knew how he would let me know when he did it, and I did not know what the hell that meant when he told me that. But I was like, all right, dude, like that's cool. And he didn't have any food, and I gave him some food, and I was like, man, I don't know what the hell you're doing out here, but good luck, brother. And And so he took off. He was a pretty quick hiker, but he took off, and the next day I got to the campsite where he had stayed, and his whole entire pack was left at his campsite.
Oh man, what a jackass! What the hell?
Yeah, and I had to haul his external frame pack for 2 fucking days because I had nowhere to take it. I had to carry it because there was no road crossings I was crossing or anything where I could drop it off to like come back and pick it up. And it was insane. And he let me know. That was what he was meaning when he would let me know when
oh, what a jerk.
That.
Was he like an actual hiker, do you think? That was just crazy, or do you think he was like a homeless like hiker?
I think he was telling me how he had just gotten out of jail and like he had started in New York. I don't think he was a legitimate hiker.
Yeah, that's you don't want to see that.
Yeah, so and I actually had met other hikers that had met him, and he had told everybody else different trail names, and he was like, he called himself something, and then I like mentioned it to another hiker, and he was like, that wasn't his trail name, what he told me yesterday.
Jesus Christ.
And he kept telling people different trail names, wouldn't let anybody know who he was. Like, when I was out there being a ridgerunner, I was also carrying a camera, so I was documenting my time out there.
Right.
And I like to take photos of hikers that I like sat down and got to know, and he was the only person that did not let me take a photo of him.
Oh, really?
That threw up a red flag for me. So
yeah,
I didn't know what the hell was going on with him, but that was the most pain in the ass moment as ridge running when I had to carry 2 packs with me.
Yeah, for those of you listening, most people you meet, like 99.9% of the people you meet are not going to be like that. So don't worry about it. Yeah. Don't let that deter you. I never met a single person like that. So
yeah. And I had never met anybody like that on my entire thru hiking. You know, it's unfortunate that those people are out there and they're not well educated on, you know, hiking, and, you know, they think they can just go out in the woods and live their life without rules. Right. And unfortunately, there's some rules in the woods that you should be following, but yeah, that was pretty bogus moment.
For sure.
That was a very bogus moment.
So, I guess kind of moving on from like weird out of jail people on the trail.
Yeah.
is not normal. We're going to talk about photography a little bit. So Aaron is a professional photographer. You said that you'd had work published in National Geographic, Backpacker Magazine. Where else? Like
USA Today.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with, you know, these awesome publications and get my work out there. And I, hands down, solely thank the Appalachian Trail for granting me.
Oh, nice.
The wonderful photos that I captured along my hikes and my time out on the trails.
Yeah, for sure. So, when did you kind of get into photography? Because were you into it before your AT thru hike?
Yes. So I started taking photos in middle school. I really wasn't that great at anything growing up. Like, I wasn't good at sports. I sucked. Riding my bike, I bashed my teeth out. I didn't find that niche where, like, I was like, damn, I feel naturally talented and confident with this. And randomly I picked up a camera one day and started taking photos of some of my friends, and like, it just felt super natural.
Cool.
And from there I was like, let's do this. And luckily at that time of my life, I was doing a lot of skateboarding. Wasn't that great at skateboarding, so I started taking photos of my friends doing really good skating really well. So throughout middle school and high school, I just like built on that and learned. Took all the art classes I could take for photo, and did also photojournalism with the yearbook in my high school. As I said, I was the head photographer there for 2 years. That was kind of the one reason I wanted to thru hike, was to document this and look at it as like one whole art piece, basically.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, obviously then it would be a no-brainer to bring your camera on the thru hike. So what I'm not super technical when it comes to cameras at all, but what do you usually bring as far as like your camera and other gear while you're hiking?
So on my AT hike, I carried two cameras with me. I carried a digital camera and a 35 millimeter film camera.
Oh, cool.
So throughout high school, that's basically all I shot was 35 millimeter film, and hands down, that's my favorite thing to shoot with. Digital is cool and all; it's great for my commercial work, but as far as my personal work, 35 millimeter is just, I love it. It feels more of an art to me. There's an excitement about not knowing exactly what you captured and then sending your film in and getting it back. So I carried those two cameras with me. I carried a Fuji X100, which is the digital camera. It was a little rangefinder camera, and I carried a Nikon F3, which was the film camera.
Okay.
Right now, I have switched it up multiple times with what I carry, from an RX100, which is super popular for backpacking.
I literally just bought one of those the other day.
Yeah, that's a fantastic camera. Super small and light, and it produces amazing photographs. Right now, what I'm carrying is a Sony A7R, which is my full-frame digital DSLR. I also carry a film camera as well with me. That varies depending on the hike. I may carry my Nikon F3, or I may carry my little Olympus point-and-shoot camera that I found in a thrift store, but it produces awesome photos as well. So it just depends on the hike. If I'm trying to go super light and, go in a little quicker, I may only bring a digital or a film. I'm not going to carry both.
Right.
But if I'm doing a super long trail, like a long thru-hike, I'm definitely going to carry two cameras, and whether that be, film and digital or all film. Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. So I guess kind of what we're talking about the gear there, do you have any recommendations for cameras that someone like me, for instance, who wants to like maybe step their photo game up a little bit, but also doesn't really have like a background in photography? Do you have any recommendations for cameras for like someone in that scenario, kind of that specific for hiking and backpacking, I should say?
Like I said, the Sony RX100 is fantastic camera.
I killed it then. Yeah. Let's go. Kyle Smart.
You did a really, really great job on that one.
Oh, thank you, dude. Thank you so much.
I love that camera. It was a great camera for me. And also another one is the Fuji X100. It's a little bigger, but it's got a fixed lens, which means it's one lens on it. You can't zoom in or zoom out, which kind of makes you get a little bit more creative and focus more on composition and moving your feet more than just zooming in and out of the subject. Actually getting up close and personal with whether that's taking a portrait of somebody or getting close to a deer or a bird or something. Who knows?
Cool, man. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to like skip over the photography too much, because honestly we're kind of getting short on time here. But so like my last question on this subject is, do you have any just like general tips for hikers who are just using their phones to take better pictures while they're on the trail?
Definitely keep an eye out on the light. The light is really, really flattering in the morning, early morning, and around sunset. Keep an eye out on lights. The lighting, and in photography, light is always your subject type deal. So definitely make sure you're looking at the light. Also, make sure when you're using your phone, you can also choose where you want to focus by tapping, and then you can adjust the exposure or the brightness or darkness of the photo. If you're trying to take a photo of, let's say, a sign or something, you can point your camera at it, tap where the sign is, and then like scroll up and down to adjust the exposure. Also play around with some things, work with panoramic to going vertical to horizontal to putting some filters on it. I know on iPhones you can make it black and white or dramatic or anything like that. So just keep an eye out on the light, and composition is key. It doesn't matter what camera you have. Try not to put your subject right dead stop in the middle of the photo. Maybe put it to the right or to the left, or kind of off-center it a little bit. It's kind of the rule of thirds is what it's called. So if you split up the frame in thirds, horizontally and vertically, there's like the cross points of where those lines would meet. That's the sweet spot of where you would like to put your subject. So that's some basic things.
That's great. I think there's some really good advice there, and I'm definitely trying to step up my Insta game a little bit. That's why I bought that RX.
Yeah, that'll definitely help you.
Maybe make some YouTube videos too. Maybe, I don't know. I don't have any experience with photography or filmmaking, but I didn't have any experience podcasting.
You just got to start doing it. That's the hardest part, is just doing it. Step out of your comfort zone. That's what thru hiking is all about, is getting out of your comfort zone.
Oh yeah. So you're going to be out of that comfort zone for a long time.
Yeah. So you might as well make it your best friend.
So, dude, these episodes always go by so fast.
Yeah, this has gone by really quick.
So, last thing I want to get to, favorite part of the show, story time to tell some trail tales. So, I know I gave you a little heads up about this, Aaron. So, let's see what you got. What do you have for me?
So, this happened in the 100-mile wilderness on my thru hike. We had made it to Millinocket. We made it to Monson. We were at Shaw's Hostel. Just getting ready to hit the 100-mile wilderness, and that was the last time I really had phone service. So I had to make sure I had my ducks in a row. I had to make sure I had my flight booked. Had to make sure I knew what the hell I was going to do once I made it to Baxter and how to get out of there. So my ass booked my flight 4 days prior. So I had 4 days to get through the 100-mile wilderness, which was cool and not cool at the same time. It was awesome because I had to push myself super hard and do 20 plus miles a day through the 100-mile wilderness and hiking well into the night. And we had to do a lot of night hiking. So it was the second night in the 100-mile wilderness. We had just got done eating.
Fuck. You cut out for a second. I thought I lost you.
Can you hear me?
Do I
need to start over? Where was the last thing you heard?
Dude, it was just like a second.
Okay. Anyway, it was
crisis averted.
It was the last 3 mountains before you left the 100-mile wilderness and got to 8-Ball Bridge. So it was just getting dark. We started going up the first climb, and we started coming down. And my buddy Waterboy was probably 10-15 minutes in front of me. Another girl we were hiking with, Pocahontas, was probably another 15 minutes behind me. So we were all kind of alone night hiking, which was super, super eerie. Especially in the 100-mile wilderness, it was dark as shit. Couldn't see anything. And we get down to this little opening in this valley where there's grass about waist high, and I see Waterboy running back southbound to me. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? You're going the wrong way, jackass. And he was like, dude, a bear or something just ran right in front of me, scared the shit out of me. I don't want to be out. And we were like, okay. We've seen some bears before. Let's all get together, make a lot of noise, throw some shit at it. Maybe it'll go away. We cross this bend, and we see the eyes of this animal. And I don't know if you've ever seen bears' eyes at night, but when they reflect, they're almost like big marbles. These eyes were not big marbles. They were about the height of a bear. It looked right, but they were kind of squinty and kind of ovally shaped. And we didn't know what the hell it was. We were yelling, banging our trekking poles together, throwing rocks at it. The thing did not move a bit. And we were like, what the fuck is this thing? We kept making a bunch of noise, blowing my whistle on my pack. We started moving a little closer to it, and it finally kind of made a move to the right of us, and I got that side profile shot of it, and our headlight shined on it. It was a fucking mountain lion.
In Maine?
Yeah, there's very, very few in Maine, but there are a few. And this was the one mountain lion that was fucking in the 100-mile wilderness, and we had just stepped upon it, and it was fucking just looking straight at us. It was maybe 50 yards in front of us.
And you have the photo of this?
We had no photos. There's no proof, but
okay. I thought you meant when you. Yeah. Okay, I gotcha.
No,
I thought you
no.
snapped a shot when.
I wish I had a photo of this, but there's no photographic proof. But there was 3 people there, including myself, that saw this, and we were fucking stopped in our tracks. We didn't know what to do. This thing was not moving. It was right where the trail was passing by. So we sat there for another 20 minutes, hollering at it, throwing stuff at it, and it finally kind of veered down the mountain and kind of got out of sight. So we were like, okay, we need to go. We need to stay together, put a bunch of lights on, make a bunch of noise, keep talking, constantly look behind us, and just like keep alert. So we're walking. Within 10 minutes, we happen to look over to our left, and literally maybe 10 yards into the woods, that fucking cat is still in the woods looking at us.
It was following you.
This thing was following us, wondering what the hell we were doing.
Are you, Aaron? Are you sure it wasn't like a bobcat or anything
dude,
like that?
I know what a bobcat is. It was much, much bigger.
Wow.
And I've talked to the AMC people that are in Maine, and they've told me that they've seen quite a few mountain lions in the 100-mile wilderness. It's extremely rare, but it does happen. And yeah, we saw an even better sight of it when it was up there kind of stalking us. And luckily, I remember this mountain, we had to go over White Top, which is a super bald, exposed ridgeline. And when we got up there at night, the wind was blowing maybe 50, 60 miles an hour. And that was the only reason that cat quit following us, is because we went over that mountain. But that was probably the most terrifying experience on trail. And that was like that was close to like the last night on the AT. And
yeah, you're so close at that point.
Dude, yeah, it was pretty eerie. It was insane. Yeah, that was.
Dude, that's nuts. I was under the impression that mountain lions were extinct in Maine, or all of New England for that matter.
There's a very, very, very small population, and in the 100-mile wilderness. I mean, that's the perfect spot for them to be in. You know.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was very, very eerie, because I didn't even believe it when I first fucking saw the thing. I was like, oh, this thing's like a bobcat or some type of wild cat, some type of like cat or whatever the fuck it was. I didn't even know. But when I saw that like long tail that it has and that signature like profile look they have, it was eerie as shit.
I just Googled it right now. Bobcats mountain lions in Maine, and it's possible that it's not even like a native animal. It's possible that it just migrated. So I'm looking at an article right now, and in Connecticut in 2011 there was a cougar killed on a road that had migrated all the way from South Dakota. Yeah. So
it can sometimes end up in Maine.
Yeah, it's probably not a native animal. For those of you, because I'm sure someone's gonna call bullshit listening to this. It's probably not a.
I've had people call bullshit multiple times, and you had to be there. I understand. There's no photos or anything. You can call bullshit all you want, but I was there.
That's so crazy. Yeah, it must have migrated over from
it was
something like that too.
Somewhere,
that's
but
nuts.
it was super strange and very eerie. But
yeah, I would be perfectly fine not ever seeing a mountain lion while I'm hiking.
Yeah, just like that article about the guy on the Colorado Trail that had to choke out that mountain lion.
Dude, that's crazy. That dude fucking killed that thing. That
with
is
his
nuts.
bare hands.
That's badass, dude. That is the definition of badass right there. I want to get this guy on the show. Lion. I don't even care
For real,
dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Aaron, dude. That was awesome. I think we're going to try to wrap it up here. So thank you so much for taking the time. Real quick, before we sign off, where can people go to look at some of your photos and connect with you on social media?
So you can find me on Instagram at ibuprofen, spelled like my last name, and then PROFIN.
I see what you did there.
It's that's where you can find all my photos. I post there quite often. You can also find me on Facebook at Aaron Ibey. Don't really have Twitter. I don't have anything else. I just have Instagram and Facebook. But that's where you can find me. And you can also buy my prints in the link in my bio on my Instagram.
I'll throw a link to that in the show notes as well for those of you who are interested.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Awesome, dude. I think we're gonna don't hang up yet, but I think we're gonna end the episode here. So to everybody listening, thank you very, very much. Enjoy the rest of your drive or your work or your laundry folding or your lawn mowing or your treadmill run in the morning. Where do you usually listen to podcasts, Aaron?
Typically in the car when I'm driving to work. That's my favorite place.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to add to the list, but the problem is there's only so many places you can listen to.
Or when you're through hiking, you can listen to a podcast
you're hiking.
Through
That's
hiking.
so true, honestly.
Yeah.
I said that one the other day,
Listen
but I
to
forgot it this time.
Hiking podcast.
Yeah. That's a big one for sure.
Yeah.
So anyways, Aaron, thank you so much, and thank you to everybody listening. Peace out.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the opportunity for letting me come out here and talk about my adventure.